Oh, oh, wrong screen. Okay. Hey Zach, how do I switch the screen that I want to show? Is it showing my little screen here? I want to show my other one. You know, earlier it was good on that TV.
Go to that.
That's my display link. It's not on here. Oh. Extend display. Okay, so I want to extend this scan. Yeah, mirror for that one. Yep, there we go. Cool. I think. Oh, well, I'm mirroring everywhere. I got it figured out. Maybe. That is my mouse now.
Played with the Final Fantasy growing up, Ryan.
I did. Let's see. I want you the main display. Stop. Okay. So this is the TV. So it's this one. I'm gonna mirror the built in. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. There we go. All right. We'll put you over here. Nope. Yep. Okay. Okay. Also, folks, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. Thank you. All right. So let's do a share screen. This guy.
So thanks, good. It's really good. Thank you.
This away.
Everybody's starting on one thing.
Brian, are you gonna walk through the steps to get us set up?
Go ahead and do it. Yeah, yeah. If you need help, holler. Yeah, just get your project ready. How do I-
Good, how are you?
One more question, Zach. Hey, Zach. One more question. How do I move that? Oh, actually, it went away. I was gonna ask how I moved that banner away, but I think the top banner.
Click that, and then I think if you just
Leave
wait
it
a
alone.
second, it'll go away.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Share this image.
And where do you go? Yeah. That's so cool.
If you don't have a. Follow your route. If you don't have a project, but yeah, make your project. You get the part started. Yeah, we can go, reload, create, react out. Should probably sleep now, dude.
Sorry, guys, did y'all hear that in Tulsa?
No,
Okay, yeah, go ahead. If you don't have your new app created, go ahead and make your new repo, create your own React app. We're gonna do this thing.
I'm about to post something in the Slack. I'm having trouble. I guess my Node version is out of date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Ally in the chat now? See, she was in the waiting
Yeah, I'm
room. Okay, cool. So you didn't give your React app a name.
Oh, that was it?
It should be, yeah. You just put your name after create React app. And it should make it.
We also it's a later version of Node.
It's running 12. Oh, yeah, you'll have to upgrade your node too, but it worked Wednesday, didn't it?
Well, I was using a different machine on Wednesday.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so
That was the problem. I'm trying to update Node, and when I did npm install Node, it just gave me the same version 12.22.9.
gotcha. What kind of machine are you on?
Windows 10.
I think if you just go to node.com, nodejs.com, you can just get it there.
Is he running the, are you running the Ubuntu thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the terminal inside VS Code.
You know which shell it's using? Can you,
It's using Ubuntu.
okay, then yeah, you can
Let's
just install it with apt-get or whatever.
apt-get.
Look up like installed node Linux like Ubuntu. And then I think it should be, yeah, actually installing NVM would be good too.
I tried NVM and it said command NVM is not found.
Okay.
So apt Node.
Yeah, you just do sudo apt install node.js.
I'm also having the same issue.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, I'm getting the same code, the same error that a new minor version of npm is available. I'm guessing I just need to install the whatever it's telling me to.
Oh, that was his. Yeah, post a screenshot of what you got, Caitlin.
Okay.
Is anybody here having node issues? Which one? Oh, this thing? This is just the error he was having. So if you're not having node issues, then you're good.
Yeah.
This is not correct. Don't look at this. This is not right. Yeah.
Apt install Node.js gave me the same version 12.22.
Okay. Caitlin, I think yours is just, did it create the app? It did not?
I don't know. How do I find out?
So in your VS Code, you should see your project right there that you created. But it looks like you're running version 10.
That's, NVM.
It didn't, yeah, it didn't create it.
It did not.
No.
Yeah, you just need to make sure to specify the
version.
name. Cause she just didn't.
Oh.
Should specify the name.
So just do that.
Oh, okay, I was looking at that. Yeah, so Caitlin, you just need to put the name of your app after create React app. Put the name.
Oh, okay.
Just whatever name you want, it could be like test or my app or whatever. Okay.
So I did that,
And then.
but.
So any luck, Dancy?
There's a way to rename it.
No, I'm still,
Same version?
yeah, still just getting the same version.
Alright, let's see. So I think maybe if you run. Updates, let's see.
Update instead of install.
Let's see, so this. You should be able to specify the version. It's with NVM. Yeah, just try to do the update, do sudo apt update.
Right. Let's pull this out in case you need it.
Okay, thanks.
That should work.
No,
Still version 12. Should I try it on the actual terminal instead of inside VS Code? Will that make a difference?
I don't think so.
It's not an issue, it takes the, yeah, it was my fault for doing that. Yeah, we had set up the awnings that we.
Oh.
You can try this bit here.
Yeah. And then we.
Sudo cache clean.
Yeah.
You're like, let's do it, we'll do it there. That's all. Never, maybe I'll lose like this.
Okay, it looks like mentioned fine. Thank you.
Sorry if you still need that.
Yeah, what were the other? I got the,
Well, I just read the HTTP file, and I'm like, every. It did not. And then what's. I think it wouldn't matter. We got dismissed early. It's, I think it would. Maybe.
What's the issue you're running into now?
Dancy's still getting the same version, 12.
All I
Did
did
he
was
do
I was the app.
the
Like, ETA to get.
He did the app install node, whichever one we were just looking at. This here, app install node.
so that the sudo cache clean and sudo in stable, it says installing node version 20.13, but when I do node -- version, it keeps saying version 12.22.
Okay, go back to that one. Follow. If you follow those. things, you can
Hey, look at it. Okay.
That's not.
Okay, I'm gonna send you this link, Dancy, and you can try this out.
Yep.
We'll get started over here. I'm just gonna put it in the channel.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody good? You got your stuff set up? Good to go? No problems? All right, first little housekeeping thing. The Verge asked if we would make sure to put our dishes in the dishwasher. So I asked ChatGPT to help us and that's what he said. So, yeah. So, anyway, yeah,
That's
just,
kind of terrifying.
right, yeah, he looks really mean. Yeah, but they said like even if they get washed like 9 times, they don't care as long as they get from the sink to the dishwasher. So, yeah, that's it. Right. Let's go back over here. So I posted this morning in the Slack, like the things we're gonna be going over today. So I don't know if y'all got a chance to read them or not, but it'll be good for later too. But what we're gonna build today is this. Okay. So this is an amazing company. So basically, we're gonna put in a username, we're gonna put in a password, and we're gonna get clicking. And then we're gonna load, and then we're gonna have our clicks. So we can increase our clicks, we can save our clicks, we can reset our clicks, and we can sign out. Okay. So the point of this is we're gonna learn about state, we're gonna learn about props, we're gonna learn about use state, we're gonna learn about use effect, which are hooks. We're gonna learn about local storage, which is storage in the browser. So to do all that, we're just gonna build this, and as we go, I'll talk through what we're doing. So first thing, go ahead and make a home page, so home component, which is gonna be, you can use your app JS if you want. It's gonna be your kind of your parent of everything. So yeah, so you have your app.js, you don't have to make an actual home component. But what's gonna happen is like that's your parent of everything, right? And so there's 2 types of components that you want to think about. There's controlled components and uncontrolled components. And what that means is a controlled component is where all of your state is going to change, right? And it's where your props are going to start from basically and get passed down. I know that probably didn't make a lot of sense, but as we go, you'll see it. So your app.js is going to be your controlled component where your state lives, okay? And then everything else will be brought into that, will be children of that, okay? So this here, so this is going to be our sign-in page, okay? So make a sign-in component, so signin.js. And then we'll throw that out there. And I think I'm gonna do similar to how I did Wednesday. I'm gonna post the code. You guys can grab it, put it in there, and then we'll walk through it. Click over here. So I'm making a new thread in there called React Day 2 thread. So that way I'm not clogging up the whole channel. Okay, so there is the sign-in code. Oh, I should probably give you the app.js code too. That might be helpful. And Tulsa folks, if you have questions, just either put them here or interrupt me. Don't put them in the chat for the Zoom, please. Okay, so yeah, throw that in app.js and then throw the other thing in the sign-in.js. And make sure you're in your React app, that you CD'd into your React app. You're not still in the repo part. Okay. Once you get it pasted, give me like a thumbs up or something that you're good.
Take a component folder and put it in the component folder.
Yeah.
A new document. No, that's. Right.
Oh. And show my,
Yeah, let's say maybe show your folder path.
Yeah. there you go.
Replace fragment. Components should be in the source folder.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, the only component you won't have in your source is gonna be your app.js. You gotta make the components folder. Sorry, I should have said that.
Don't technically need that component folder. Like it's a good structure.
It's a convention, basically.
Yeah, in the source. You're gonna make a folder called in the source folder. And then you'll add that signing.js to it. Yeah. You can see this folder structure up there, so. You got a source folder and then there's a components folder, and the components folder's got sign in. Yes. The other stuff is like class thing.
Yeah, we'll get to the rest of it.
And there will be address. No. Just remember the sign in that is. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I have to talk to someone. I'm at a hotel lobby right now. So, we're putting these in the components folder in the SRC folder. Is that what's happening?
We'll say that again. We're putting in the components folder. What?
We're putting what you posted in Slack in the components folder. Is that what
Yes.
we're doing? Or,
Yeah, so you'll have the app.js code in your app.js.
uh,
Just replace what's there. And then the sign in will be inside the components folder. in this
okay,
.js.
gotcha. Okay.
Cool. Did I confuse everyone? Uh, Yeah, we're replacing all the code in the app.js. Also, folks, we're replacing all the code in the app.js. If right now, if you're on NPM start, it's gonna break. So
Here in,
good.
here in day two, you also see the bolts that you raised.
That reminds me, because
You can do command, well, are you on a Mac? Yeah. I think it's control tilde.
Yeah. Yes. So you understand. Build those files. And all.
Let's-
Gonna break it. Oh, you're expecting it to break? Yeah, okay, not gonna work yet. Okay. Yeah, little, You're never. Your eye.
intentional.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got that right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is on that.
But.
Mine doesn't show it either, mine hasn't shown it, so I don't know, and I just have to copy it.
You ran it and then it didn't. Go, isn't it?
So I read it last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Okay.
Whatever I.
Figured out.
Yeah, today, I noticed that it was.
Default to the template.
Yeah.
It must have something wrong with it, and have to fix it every time. I wonder, it's probably why it is, but it doesn't do it.
Also, y'all good?
Still working on my terminal.
Oh, okay.
For me, okay, so you know how your signin.js has the different symbol? Mine has just the JavaScript.
Yeah, that's okay. It's,
Okay,
I'll explain that in just a second.
okay. And then also it's the code for app.js seems to not want to link to my sign-in
It's red underneath there.
component. Yeah,
Yeah, somebody else having that trouble too. I think it'll clear up
okay.
once we get going. Yeah. All right, did I totally lose everybody with that? Or are we okay? We're good? Okay, copy and paste is one of the worst things you can do in programming, so, you know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I got my node updated and I'm creating the app. What's the next step?
Wait, okay, so you got, you did the create React app with the name and it made it?
It's currently making it. It's
Okay.
still going through all the steps.
Cool. So yeah, once it's done, just CD into that folder. And then you're gonna take the app.js code that I put in the channel and replace it with what's in there. Replace with what I gave you. And then create that signin.js in a components folder, which you'll have to make. And then put the code in there that's in the channel.
Okay. Replace the app.js and then add all of those.
Just add the sign in one right now. Right.
Okay.
Make sure you make a components folder within the source folder. Okay, so let's move along. Oh, hit more. So you may notice that in your under your components folder, well, under all your folders, that there's a little like JS or a little React symbol, stuff like that. So what that means is that's the type of folder that it's or type of file it's recognizing it as. And what you'll notice with React, since we're doing JSX, if it's just a JS folder, it's not going to do the really cool autocomplete stuff for you. So what you want to do is go to the bottom right down here where it says JavaScript, like way down there at the bottom. And if you click that, you can select what type of file it is if it doesn't auto detect it properly. So if you put JSX, you can get JavaScript JSX, and then that's going to make sure that it'll change it to the little React symbol, and it'll get you the, like if you type the component in, it will auto import it and all that good stuff. There's a way to put that in your VS Code as a setting, but it's kind of annoying.
You name your file.jsx, it might automatically do it too.
It might. All right.
On the import for sign in, is it supposed to be capital I?
On the in part,
On yes, on the in.
like here.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll match your file name. Okay, so for our sign in, so this is our sign in page, right? Yeah, this is the component. So the app.js, the sign in page lives in there, which I'll show you here. So under the return here, so remember a component is going to have, you're going to create the function, right? Which the app one doesn't get exported because it's not going anywhere. And then the return, so this is the component, okay? So you're making the functional component, and then the return is the JSX that's going to come back, which this probably looks super crazy and everything. But the point is that the sign-in component is being brought in here, okay? So it's being brought into the app.js. We're pulling it in, just like we did with the body and stuff last on Wednesday, okay? So there are a couple variables, state variables in the app.js, which we're using here. So you can see in the return, and this is a long ternary operator. I don't know if y'all have heard of ternary operator, but it's basically an if-else statement with question marks and colons, okay? So what this is saying is, so let me go to the top real quick. Up here, we have state variables, okay? These are all state variables, okay? So for a state variable, you have the variable itself and then the function to set it, okay? And it's in an array, right? It's got the boxes, okay? And then you set the default value of the state with a use state here, okay? Which we got to bring it up top here for React. Cool. So state, like I was saying Wednesday, well, actually, if we look at our Slack, you can see here. Let me get this guy out of the way. Let me get this guy out of the way. This is what ChatGPT gave me for state. So it represents the data that a component manages and can change over time. It is a plain JavaScript, so we're not leaving JavaScript, no matter how much I want to. It's a plain JavaScript object that contains properties relevant to the component. When the state of a component changes, React re-renders the component to reflect the updated state. So basically, it is what's going to trigger that re-render of that component. So that way we're only changing, if like only the sign-in component changes, only that's going to get re-rendered instead of everything, like doing a whole page refresh. Make sense? Where's mud? Cool. So a very common thing you might see on pages is loading, right? Like something happens and you do like a loading thing. So we have in our app an is loading state, okay? So this is the state, and then this is how you set it. Whoa, get out of the way. Hey. Set is loading. And this, you can name these anything you want, okay? It doesn't have to be set and then the name of the thing. That's just typical convention, camel case. And then you set the default value of whatever it is. So in this case, it's going to be a Boolean, right? Because it either is or isn't. So we're setting it to false in the beginning, so that way we don't have a loading as soon as we kick it off. Okay. We're having an is signed in state because we need to know when our user signs in, so then we can move them on to the next part of whatever it is we're going to do. Okay. The click count is going to be for the click page, and then username and password is obviously for the sign-in page. Okay. And this is so we can actually store the username and password that they're typing in. We're setting these to empty strings because they're going to be strings. The click count we'll get to in a little bit. So we're going to talk about use effect in just a minute, but let's look at the sign-in page. So props, okay? So props are, as ChatGPT says, let's find that again. Right here. Hey, Carl. All right, so props are, it's short for properties. They are a way to pass data from the parent to the child, okay? They are immutable. What's immutable mean? Cannot change, yep. And they are passed down through the component tree, okay? So they're gonna come from the parent down to the child. If they're needed in like a grandchild, they're gonna get passed down to the grandchild, so on and so on and so on. Props allow components to be customizable and reusable, and as different data can be passed to each component. So think about the coffee shop. If you had if you had a menu of coffees, but then you also like merchandise, those two are going to look really a lot the same, right? Because it's just going to be a card with whatever it is in it. So you can pass props differently to each one. So pass like the coffee shop stuff to the coffee stuff to the first one, and then the next one, which is going to be the same component, you can pass the merchandise through. Okay, so think about that for next Saturday. Blow your mind. Yeah. It's super cool. So this gives you kind of an example right here of how props get passed. So the parent component is that second one that you see. Y'all can see that. Let me blow it up a little bit. Whoa. Why did it take me back here? Hold on. Oh, okay. So you can see that that's 200 okay yesterday. Very nice. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Way down. Okay. All right. So yeah, so the bottom one is the parent component. Okay. I know it's weird because you would think that'd be on top, but it doesn't matter. And it is passing to the child component the name of John, okay? So name is gonna be the name of the prop that you're gonna access, like it says props.name in the child component. And then the value is gonna be whatever you pass it. And you can pass anything. You can pass a string, you can pass a function, which we'll do, a Boolean, whatever. Pass anything you want in there. To access it in the child, you have to have props here in the, so so just like any other function, you're passing in an argument, right? So props is the parameter. And then you'll access it by props dot whatever that key or that name is from the parent. Okay. Cool. Okay. So in our app, we need some stuff in sign in, right? From our parent, we're gonna need the username, we're gonna need the password, right? We're gonna need the functions that are gonna handle those things. And we're gonna need to actually set them in our state. Okay, because remember our state is in our app.js, it's not in our sign in. We'll go over what those components do here in just a second. But you can see there that they're all getting passed in, right? So again, the first thing is the actual prop name that you're going to access with props dot whatever. And then the second thing is what you're actually passing in, the data or the function. Make sense? Cool. Okay. So go over to our sign-in component. You can see here, we're passing the props in. Okay. So now all of those things that were in the line, all those props that we're passing are now accessible in this child component. Okay. So if we look just real quick down here, so this is what's actually on our screen, right? The welcome to Clicker Company, all this stuff, right? So that's coming from that sign in. Okay. And you can see within here, like the username, we have an input and the value of it is props.username, okay? Because that's what's being passed from our parent component right here, which this is coming from our state right here, okay? So this is the cool thing and kind of confusing thing until it really clicks about React is you're really just handing stuff off. It's like the race where they hand the thing to the next person, whatever that's called. There you go, yeah. You're just getting stuff where it needs to be. Okay. There are more advanced ways to do this where you don't have to pass it all the way down with context and other things that we're not going to talk about, but this is common. This is just a fine way to do it. Nothing wrong with this. So the other things that we're passing in the password, right? So we got props.password. And then you'll notice that we have a couple functions. So props.handle set username, okay, which is a fantastic name, is being handled back here. So if we look at handle set username, okay, so this is the function that we're passed through there, okay, and then we're calling the function in the child right here with props.handle username, and we're passing it back the value, the e.target.value from that input. Okay, so you remember inputs, you can get that value and then do stuff with it. This is regular JavaScript stuff. Okay. So when you do it here, we'll talk about the on change in a second. It's going to bubble back up to the parent. Okay, so you're passing the value here, whatever is being typed in, and then it's going to go back here to the parent, and it's going to go to that function because this is the function we passed, and then do whatever's inside of here. So we could console log E, we could do whatever we want. But what we're doing is we're setting the username, right? So this is the setter function on the username right here. Okay. So that actually sets it in state on the parent, not in the child. I know that's a lot. It's like. So to see that in action, if we go here and we start typing, that's an on change. Every time I hit something, that on change is firing. Okay. Just like an on click, except for it's just every time something changes. So if we go back to our sign in, you can see in the input here. So in this guy, the input, every time something changes, so on change, we are calling this function. Okay, which is passing whatever changed back to the parent, to the function to set it in the user's name state. Crazy? And
Say it again, but slow.
slower. Okay. So every time something changes in this input, okay, so something changed, right? I guess I can log this so you can actually see it. That might help. Okay, so let's log. And handle set user. Okay, so now. So every time something changes, oh, you know what? I can do this better. Let me do it this way. Let's go here. This. This. There, okay. So now, so when we change something, you can see that in the input right here, this is what changed. This is the whole event. That's probably confusing. Hold on. Sorry. Let's do e.target. Okay, so in the input, we hit it, right? We changed something. So it's going to take that change, that e.target.value, and then it's going to pass it from that input. As you can see, the input is in the sign-in, right? Then it's going to pass it up to the app.js, the value, okay? And then that sets it in the state. Make it a little better. Okay. Cool. So really, I think the easiest way to think about it is like bubbling or like the relay race. Like in the child, whatever happens in the child, if you are maintaining your state in your controlled component, which doesn't always happen, trust me, there's a lot of stuff at work that doesn't work that way, but it should. It's good practice. Then everything will just bubble back up or get handed back up to that controlled component. Okay. And it's kind of weird because you would think this is happening in sign-in, maybe sign-in should handle it. The problem is the more controlled components you have, the less control you have, because it's going to change in every component that it happens in. Okay. Making sense? Sort of. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so same deal with password. I'm not logging it, but you know, put it there. Oh, yep.
The E in the functions, that's not an arbitrary length. What is E?
So it is in the in the event. Yeah, it's event. So in the on change, it's E, right? Well, it doesn't have E. You could be event, you could Taco Bell, whatever you want to call it. But what it is, yes, is in the on change, it is the event. And so when we logged just the E instead of the e.target.value, then you see it has this whole synthetic base event thing. So this is the E, right? But we didn't need all this stuff. I don't know what bubbles are, but apparently they're true. That's not the bubbles I'm talking about. But this is like if you wanted to deep dive into JavaScript stuff, like the event, there's tons of stuff in the event. Okay.
Does E tend to stand for that? Because that's
Yes.
too, and app.js, both the functions.
Mhm.
Instead of each one having a different letter.
Right. Yeah, it's just the parameter that we're using. Because whatever you pass in, like you can change their names. You could say E Taco Bell, whatever. But E is just typically when you have an on change, an event, or even an on click, an event is going to occur. And so E is just this kind of the way of using it. Yeah. Yeah, E itself is not like a variable we're setting. It's just what we're using to pass through. Yeah, so you can see that e.target.value there. That's what we're after, right? highlight it for you too. Kind of, okay, cool. Most of the time, like that's all you want is just the value. All right, so that might be enough for today. Okay. Cool. So that's how the sign-in works. We're going to sidetrack a little bit and talk about local storage. Okay. Local storage is not a React thing. It is a browser thing, a JavaScript thing. Okay. You'll notice in this new fancy tab that I just discovered recently, in application, when you hit get clicking, you may notice your username and password showed up over here. Okay. So I did that. Here on the button on click, I chose set local storage, okay? So this is again, this is a function, you notice it's not props.set local storage. This is a function within the sign-in component, okay? And so what it's doing is, first I have a couple validations here, which some you should definitely get used to doing is checking that things are right, because if you get stuff in there that you didn't want, or if it's blank or whatever, it can really jack up the code. So I can show you. So if I put nothing in here and I hit get clicking, I get this little error, username is required. And then if I put stuff in here and I hit it, then password is required. There's much better alerts out there. There's Sweet Alert as a package that we can use that makes them much prettier, because you don't want this. This is ugly. But then once the password in, then we're good. So it goes on. So local storage is a persistent storage, meaning it doesn't get removed. And it's a good place to handle kind of session information and stuff. However, it's probably not a good place to put your password. Okay. So I did this. First off, my son was like, that's stupid. You shouldn't put your password there. And I was like, yeah, I know that. Yeah. But yeah, so you can store stuff here, like some user details. Maybe they, for the coffee shop, maybe they liked a bunch of coffees. So you could say, oh, okay, you know, they like these coffees. So we keep it in the browser. You can also make a user object that would bring in stuff like that. But it's a good place to keep non-sensitive data that you could use to make your apps better, more customizable, stuff like that. Okay. Question? Yep. So to do that, it's pretty simple. You don't have to import anything. It's already part of the browser. So all you got to do is you just do local storage like this. And this is not being defined anywhere. This, again, is just built in part of the browser stuff. And then .set item, or I'll do that. Okay. And then you just give it a key. So it's an object, right? So keys and values. You give it a key that you can use to access it, and then you give it the value. So props.username, because again, we're in the sign-in component, and username is coming from our parent as a prop, right? So it's props.username. And then the second one, just password in this case, and then props.password. Okay, and that sticks it in there, and it's there. It's accessible to you. To get it, we'll get it in a minute, but it's just get item instead of set item. And you just have to put the key, because the value is what you're getting back. Okay. I can show you that real quick if you want to see. So you'll notice that I didn't actually put a name in, but like that's the name we put in, right? So let me sign up. Actually put my name in. Okay, so there's my name. So I mean, it's nice to see your name, right? Like when you sign into something and they're like, "Welcome back, get your free tea," whatever. You know? So yeah, I think it's nice to be able to customize your stuff to your user, because that's what they expect nowadays anyway. Right? A lot of expectations from users. So to get that, I'll jump down to my main component real quick, which we'll get into. But I'm just getting it right here, and I'm storing it in a variable that I can then use. So it's just local storage again, .get item, and then whatever that key was for that thing. If you forgot what the key was, you can go back to where you set it, or you can go to your browser and it's just right here under your key. Cool. Sweet. Okay. So let me sign out again. All right. So now we have our sign in. Okay, let me go back there. At the end of the set local storage, we're just handling the loading and the sign in. Okay, so once the sign in is successful, so once and then this, of course, we're not really actually checking anything if it's an actual person or whatever. This is just smoke and mirrors. But once they put in a username and password, then we're going to call our handle loading function from our props. Any idea what that function does? The loading thing? Yep. So it'll trigger that. But all it does is change the state of our loading state. So initially we have our is loading is false, right? Because we don't want to see that spinner. And then when you call the handle loading right here, so all it's doing is just setting that loading to true, and then I'm using a timeout just to fake like, it actually took some time. But that's all it's doing is just flipping that Boolean. So that way down here in our return, our is loading is not going to be true. So we're going to see that spinner. Does that make sense? Sort of cool. Okay. And then in the, where'd I go? In the set timeout. So set timeout is a function you can use to have a timeout, right? So 3 seconds or whatever. And then it's gonna it has a callback function here that's gonna trigger after that time happens. Okay. So 3000 milliseconds or 3 seconds, it's then gonna set the is loading to false. So then the spinner goes away. Cool. So in the sign in, we're going to call that function after we get signed in, which is going to trigger the state to change to true for the is loading. And then remember that's on the parent. So right there. And then we're going to wait 3 seconds and then set is loading to false. So that way the spinner goes away and we can move on down our return here. So then is loading will be false. Is signed in will then be true because we signed in, right? And so then we're going to see our main page, which is our like little clicker page. Anybody lost? It's okay to be a little bit lost. Cool. Tulsa, y'all good?
I'm good. I'll learn it more when I do it.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, once you get clicking, it's gonna work. Well, that's funny because it's a clicking thing. Yeah. All right, cool. So finally, we're signed in. So this is where we change the sign in to true, by the way. So the handle sign in function just changes your sign in Boolean from false to true. Same thing. Yep.
So it has to hit that time, to do that 3 seconds before the sign in.
Right. Yep. Yeah. If you switch them around, then it would just change the sign in first and then do the loading. I mean, we can see what it does. Let's see. I have a habit of hitting refresh, but React refreshes it for you, so you don't do that. So it did still, like, I think it quickly flashed and you just didn't see it. It was like super, super quick to the screen and then do the loading. So it's too fast for the eyes, but yes. Right. I think it actually did the next screen really fast. Like if we look. All right, ready? You can't see it. Let's see if our network tab tells us that it did it. I don't know if it'll tell us that. Well, anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, you want it, if you're going to do loading and stuff, you want that to occur before you do anything else. Okay. So you notice that we still have our username and password, right? So if I were to refresh right now in a JavaScript app, like everything's gone, right? It's brand new. But since we have the local storage, you notice everything is still there and we did not get the sign in page. Okay. And this is even cooler once we start clicking. But local, even if we were to close this out and open it back up, like completely, it's still going to have that information in there. Okay. Browser persists that information. So cool. So we did our sign in, right? So we know these functions this function is here in the sign-in, right? Because it's just for the sign-in, nothing else. And you notice it's after you declare your function and before the return, right? Okay, that's where all your functions are gonna live. All your JavaScript is in there, okay? And then all your JSX is down here. Cool, and we're passing props. Or we're receiving props in this case because it's a child, okay? And then again, the functions that get passed to the child, if it's a prop function in the child, it's gonna bubble up to the parent. Cool, okay. Cool, so we did our click, we set our local storage, and now we are on our main page right here. So I'm gonna sign out and put my name again. Just a JavaScript quick deal. Your passwords, obviously, you probably don't want them displaying passwords. So if you change your input type, so this is back in the sign-in page. Type to password. That. Then it covers it up, right? So type whatever you want. And there's a ton of different input types. There's like telephone, email, bunch of other ones. I don't know. But they can make it look different. Like I think, is there a cat? There might be a calendar. Oh, you can do date. Yeah, date. It's like a calendar. Yeah. So just because we're fancy, we're doing React. Don't forget, JavaScript has a lot of cool stuff in it. Okay? And JavaScript is React. Don't forget. No. React is JavaScript. Sorry, said it backwards. There you go. All right. Cool. All right. So now that we have moved on, oh, better fix that real quick. Yep, I'll do it that way. All right. So the loading screen, we can talk about that real quick. Is this thing won't go away. I don't want to click on you. Okay. The spinner, so okay, y'all are supposed to be typing. Okay, so spinner.js, we're gonna make our spinner.js component now. Okay. So this one's kind of small, so you can just type it out. Don't paste it. So in your components folder, go ahead and make a spinner.js component. Remember, the convention is that components are capital letters, capital first letter, and then camel case the rest of it. Or I guess Pascal case would be the proper term. Cool. And once you get done making that, make a spinner.css and you just put it right next to it. There's many ways to do CSS in React. You can do styled components is a thing where you actually can put your styling within your component itself. And then there's a ton of other libraries which we'll learn about later, like Tailwind and Bootstrap, which is not specific to React, but I like it.
You say Bootstrap's not what?
It's not specific to React. It's just a CSS library. Everybody got it? Close. Just because that's where we are using it, yeah. It's, I don't know the best convention for CSS and React. It just depends. People like styled components. What do you use that?
I use like. Inline.
Inline, yeah.
Well, we use material UI. so
Ah,
it's the
okay.
SX.
So material UI is something we'll talk about. I've never used it personally, but we'll talk about it and learn together. Which that is specific to React, right?
Well, it's a generic framework, but then there's like the React component.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm actually kind of leaning towards Scala
Oh, really?
for this class,
Okay,
just because it seems really popular and you still
Yeah.
have some no CSS.
okay, we can check it out. I just use Bootstrap for work. I'm good.
Okay.
We're very boxy at everything we do. So, yeah, we'll talk about both of those. All right, so I'm gonna move over to the CSS if you are good. I'll actually post this for you because it's a little bit complicated. So you're gonna make a spinner.css, just write in your components folder, and then just throw that in there. And this it's some basic stuff like width and border radius, which if you do border radius of 50%, it's gonna make a circle. Some background colors. The gradient is the what makes the different colors as it goes around. Not like the thing that moves around, but the different colors of the thing. Margin auto is what centered it. And then margin top 50 just brought it down. And then what actually makes it turn is this keys transform thing here. Which I didn't write this. I just found it. I'm not a CSS king by any means. Yep. You got questions on it or? You'll notice at the top that when we're importing the CSS, it's just import in the path. There's not like a name like a component. Correct, yeah. Because so if you look in your app.js, there's a bunch of imports at the top. You don't have.
So I should see what.
Now you could, if you wanted to, comment out main. No, you had. Maybe just.
I think it looks like you have a. Yeah,
Unless I'm out, I have to log in, so I can log in and they broke.
Ah, okay.
Now.
I have them all JS, so maybe just do JS. Yeah, so if you just go to the bottom of your.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, not amazing, not good, but yeah, what it does is like if you import something now, like a component in here. It was different, you can import. Go down. And then,
Yeah. I think it's everybody knows. Two of the components.
Well, it's like no.
Whatever you were saying, if you add it on here, comment.
Smoothing it back. So I saw it. It wasn't hard to add.
You got that. Yeah. It may have something. And I am strong to make it happen. It's errors, not like.
No.
Like.
No, yeah.
You guys. Well, let's get it all. Capitalize that S and spin it out. And make sure the S is capitalized in your spinner.css as well. Kelsey, y'all good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. All right, so. Now. Okay, so for the spinner, all we're doing is we just have an empty div, right? And we have that spinner class, which is what's making, the actual spinner in CSS. Okay. And so if we go back to our app.js, then you can see in our return that we have if our is loading is true, then we're going to show our spinner, right? Cool. So once, when we hit in our sign in, when we hit that handle loading, again, that's going to turn it to true, which is going to then trigger your spinner to show, and then turn it to false to move on. Make sense? Good, cool. Okay, so then we know our loading is now false, right? Because we did our handle loading, so it's back to false. Our is signed in is now true because we got signed in and we put that to true. So then we're going to go to our main. Okay. So let's go ahead and create our main, and main is fairly simple because it has a child of its own, which gets more complicated. But I'll go ahead and throw this in the Slack so y'all can copy this. Okay, so in your components folder, you're going to make a main.js, capital M. And then just paste all that code in there. Y'all want to take a break? Everybody take a break? Good. Yeah. The spinner's not in the sign in, it's in the app.js. Yep. Yeah, so the app.js is the parent for everybody, right? So the spinner and the sign in are yep.
So your spinner is looking at like 200 components. It's-
Hmm. Oh, yeah, it doesn't show the, that is interesting. Huh?
I'm just getting it.
Yeah, so I changed it to, on the bottom like I was showing you, and it did change to the React symbol. I think there's something funky with your settings, maybe. You are in your.
No, they just. Yeah, yeah, it's running. Yeah.
Let me take a quick break here.
Hey, like, that's one of the we should stop. Way different. For me, that part. Yeah, anything. No, you know, I was calling out the sales maybe. Nancy. But I think there's a lot of stuff. Like, I think they're on the same. Do you know like where you'd be? Type in a region on the side. Because the browser has regional. Okay, okay. So yeah, that was the. It's short. Yeah, that was the. Yeah, this is well, you. Right on. Yeah, we have a package. You didn't say that you just, but like, right. Approximately SaaS. So, yeah, so that's the thing. Now. There's another one. It's like that. This command is. I think it's. But I think they punches out. But. Really good. Great benefits. So. And then it's really a job. Very good at because it's.
Yeah, she'll like.
It's growing. It's been growing. Oh, it's just.
Like I'm laying down, but she'll like
We'll take some stuff for that.
Thank you.
Lisa.
All right, Tulsi, y'all good?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put something. Sales stuff. I'm gonna like actually basket.
Please sounds like the one thing that.
All right, everybody got the main JS? Good? We're waiting on one. Okay. He'll be right back.
I'll try to find some stuff that I got. But you get in, there's gonna have some other things.
Sure about that.
You're gonna start with that, bro?
Yep. Whatever y'all get.
It's a lot of stuff.
All right, so I went ahead and put counter.js in the Slack. So make a counter.js component in your components folder and then slap that in there. And then that will be the last component we make today.
Question about the components
Mhm.
folder. So I was having an issue with my just in my terminal, and I put all the files just directly in source.
Yep.
And it's working. Is that fine? You just use the components for like structure or?
Yeah, and for, so if you put it in like as a sibling to app.js as opposed to like being in a folder, then at the top of app.js, you won't have like slash components. You would just have dot slash whatever it is. So the path is the only thing that would change in that case. And there's other ways to organize it, you know, just when you get on a team, they'll have a certain way that they like to keep it organized and, you know. It's once you get more than a couple, then it's kind of hairy. So, yeah. So if you were to put them all just in right there on the, you know, on the root, yeah, it'd be insane. So at work, we probably have 150 components or something. So they're like buried within folders just to keep the structure, you know. Any other questions along the way? Anybody completely lost or we keeping you pretty good? Yeah, and it'll click. It's like JavaScript, like once you get a click, you're like, oh yeah, there it is. There's the thing. So yeah.
Just takes reps.
Yep. All right. Everybody got the counter.js? Good? Cool. Okay, so so this is again is our sign-in page, right? So we're gonna go ahead and sign in. Now, so actually, so try to run your projects now. Since you have all the folders, you should be able to see it. So just make sure you're CD'd into your React project and do npm start. If yours isn't centered, it's just because I changed the index of CSS, but you can do that. If you want it to be pretty, just go to your index.css and just add text align center in the body like this, and then it'll center it. And I did that in the index.css because it was going to affect everything.
When I try to run it, it just shows a bunch of folders, like it would if you're like loading from CSS to an HTML file instead. Is there a specific one I should be clicking on whenever I run the local host?
You shouldn't, yeah, localhost 3000 should bring it up. Are you in your folder? So,
Yeah.
so right here, this is the name of your actual project, like this guy.
Let me,
You're in this folder here, React A2, and then in that folder, it's got a folder called React A2. You see it? And in that is where you're.
And if you do an LS or a DIR, depending on what you're on, you should see like your node modules and your package JSON. That's a good
okay, I
thing.
might be doing something wrong then. Sorry.
You're good.
It's your computer, like it's your folder.
This is a good tip for everybody. When you do your LS or your DIR, if you'll see your package JSON and your node modules if you're in the right folder. If you don't, if you do it and you see like applications and blah 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 and all that stuff, then you're not in the right folder. You need to go into your React project. Well, actually, that's good. Okay, Caitlin, did you figure it out?
I'm working on it though. I'm getting errors. I'm gonna have to fix some stuff, I think.
What errors are you getting? You want to post them?
It's compiling errors, so and maybe I'm just gonna go look at some of the stuff that it for the errors. Hold on.
Okay. Well, if you want to throw them in the chat, we can have a mentor look at them and that'll help you out.
This one.
That was, I'm not sure. I think that audit thing of mine,
It's not supposed to be, but it could be.
so I moved.
That's the thing, it's like.
I made it. Also, great React is or not really to be used as much anymore, but it's like the easiest way to get started. So I think that's what brought this morning. If you get warnings, then just stay. Yeah, that's.
And they go out.
And then yeah, if you just go to the, well, to keep that running, sorry. What that you're saying about. Yeah, just like, yeah.
Can you pull up your code backup?
That would be more stressful than this. Oh. Well, yeah, it's my boy has been to it. Oh my God. One for here always. We're in the sleep line on like 6 is tomorrow tonight. 7.
Yeah, and so we're down 3-2, so if we lose, we're done. Oh. If we win, then we're at 7, come back, we're in Dallas tonight too. So if we win, we come home to finish it up. So then it's like, who are you gonna win? We gotta play for everything. They're gone. And like, man, like, things are even 117 to 7, 115 to 7. Well, and then like last night, the Pacers, New York says it's 3-3. It's, I think something is great enough. I think that's something. But then it's yeah, really, us. I think if the I don't think it's took down.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know.
I think it's just.
It happens so quick. He does.
He's a guy who still has more interest in that, which
And he looks.
is my son. Okay, the first thing he gets. It's the ESPN. We went, I took the game too.
No.
He's there. He space, he space is already to fire. Yeah.
Do they let you buy a ticket?
No, I've been reading.
Go back to. Will they hold $30? No, maybe will they have $30?
Wow.
Oh, will those guys have those?
Okay, go to your main, she's your main.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Well,
yeah, I think they have 8 to 12.
Yeah, there's,
You have.
I mean,
So some people.
Yeah, so it's trying to.
Oh,
and that's.
Okay.
God. And.
No, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there was, I think it's just 4 tickets. They set it up. But this is a good. Every 4 to 6 days. Approximately. And I have. We wrote a custom map, so. So we.
some of the anticipated. Like, you're good. Every other thing that is kind of that, stuff like that, which are like, but I hear it's user right there. I think it's,
Yeah. That's 600. Now we had 600 people. Not everyone's admitted to. Thunder game, they were at 6,000. Everyone, every time. Every time. Every time. It's on the weekend, it's 600. Maybe always. And for the longest time, so you got to be a. And then for a while, they were fair taxes for it. Should pay that. They always pay the tax.
So if you were on.
Then you.
Here's the land of side, I say.
Where it is.
So. If you want it, maybe you won't. Yes. We're just rolling that.
We're stressing out.
If you want to see them.
Looking at that one from 3/4 back.
We're gonna pass maybe seven typos.
And I think it's crazy. All the conditions. That's a hand game.
All the. Cross the pass from the parent to the child.
I'm gonna mess it up. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. We're missing a big.
So the older stuff doesn't.
I mean, he's a big guy, however.
Where
He's not big.
from the.
Build up this right now.
This is different.
We just need a bigger, they can all.
They could look at that, but that's not. So this is just about organization. So like you see it out there, it's out there. So that's what we say.
You promoted it and then this will be merely a sign. Like we did.
So counter is a child.
Man, we're not and it's really so what happens.
Right.
You know. So all of these guys are all civil. That's part of this. Whole restructure.
It's gonna, we need to.
But really, I think that we, it's the props is a parent is gonna pass off down to a child, and then state is gonna stay on there. So if state is affected by a child, like with the counter or with the username.
Yeah, that's
fine.
I would say that.
Then it's gonna bubble up to the parent, so we'll change that. You have to pass like a function down as a prop, to then get triggered, and bubble it back up.
Hey, Brian. Like basically all the.
And like I said, when they get.
It's like that. Where directory.
I still think they're gonna.
Negative. Because everything was fun using it, that's not having it.
Can't really have it on.
So you're in.
It basically gibberish.
Okay, so this,
It's not trash. We want to make more.
Yeah, they can gigantic sensor bar and motors range.
Well, it doesn't, like if you put that, when you open back up, it's gonna be. So what I'm trying to do is just other. A rubber. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trash will move.
Oh, that's.
And then. So
now it should.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they did, control and so.
Oh, you didn't try to put off.
You can do it, right? Like, like, start some- yeah, like, one or second hour. Yeah, mine, I think there's the mine, could just mine. Could you do it? That's gonna be doing it. That's also, so you don't know we have to do it. If it has been told, I don't. Like, so I need, like, I don't wanna mess up shit. It's like, you want to do it. As long as we have a day, I was sure if you're not full of stuff first, that, you know, where you just start. You might have to add the shit for it and then. They have all the tools in place already. Then there's five. Where I guess it becomes natural, it's, you know, it's not like, it's very much. And I think that's like. That's all discussed about speculation. So you will. With the facility, I guess, that's more often when you're actually. Yeah, if you're someone get a. No, it did both this. Like just trying to. Well, I don't know why. You know, I mean, it's, you know, but I also had. I mean, yes, you understand.
Yeah.
So, like, it might be about that, like, it would be exciting.
How to get ignored, use template, give it.
And you don't have to like go get some good.
When I said it, push it.
So it's like. Well, once I like.
You're using command line, right?
Yeah, I'm using command line.
Are you better at command line, Git? Zach? Are you putting your node modules in there?
He also installed Node, it's like.
Oh, locally? Yeah, just delete your node modules folder.
Just
Right.
delete it altogether.
Yeah. And then you'll have to npm install afterwards, but
And then he needs
Okay.
more that they made from. Like a straight rect app.
Yeah.
is getting more, I think,
yeah. Are you pushing it from your React app or from the external folder?
From, so I have a folder called React Day 2, and then the app is called Class 2, and I'm pushing it from the React Day 2 folder.
Okay, you need to be in that class day too.
Oh, I
Trying to
see.
push like the whole thing,
I got you.
just the app. Yeah. All right, let me know if that works.
Oh, you could, yeah.
All right, everybody's got it up? Good? Looking good? Cool, cool. Okay. All right, so on our main page, this is where the magic is gonna happen. Y'all get over there? Good, okay. So we're gonna, this is how we get paid, right? How many clicks we do? I don't know, maybe, whatever. But So we have 4 buttons, right? So we have an increase click, a save click, a reset click, and a sign out. The increase click is going to increase the click, which is going to store our current click in a state variable. And our state variables are where?
The parent apps.
Yep, in app.js, yep, in the parent, the controlled component. So when we click, a bunch of stuff's going to happen, okay? So if we look back at our code, and we look at, wait, no, this is not my project. Hold on, sorry. Go back to this guy here. Okay. When we look at our counter, we can see that there's nothing else in here except for our JSX, right? Our HTML looking stuff. There's no functions or anything happening in here. It's all coming down from the parent. So this is just what we're seeing, okay? So you'll notice that we have like a props.click count. So that's going to be the actual click count in state that's being passed down from the parent, okay? And we'll look at that trail in a second. And then on the button, the first button, the increase click button, we have a props.handle click count, okay? So that's a function that's being passed down from the parent. So when this on click gets triggered, it's going to bubble that function back up there. So it's going to trigger that function from here. We're not passing an event or anything with it, and we'll show you why in a second. It's just triggering that function, okay? So it's a function in the grandchild that is triggering the parent, the grandparent. Same thing with the handle save click count and the handle release click count. These are just going to trigger that parent, grandparent components function, and then same with the handle sign out. So, like this is a very, it's weird that controlled components are the ones that lose control, if you know what I mean. Because this seems very controlled, right? In our mind of like, nothing is happening here. It's just showing stuff, basically. But this is uncontrolled because there's no state happening here, okay? If I made that more confusing, I'm sorry. But that's it. Okay, cool. So when we, so click count is what we need to see, right? So we're going to see that here. So 0 is the start. And as we increase, we're going to see more. So let's follow that path along and see what it looks like. So in our app.js, we are setting an initial count here, okay? And so what we're saying here is stored count is going to be stored in our local storage, right? So that way, like if we go on lunch break or whatever, we come back and we still have that count. Okay, so we're not losing half our pay for our clicks. Okay. Or so the double bars or right JavaScript. This is just JavaScript. It's going to be 0 if we don't have any counts stored. So we're probably starting our day or whatever. Can you imagine that be your job just all day? That probably happens in other countries. All right, cool. So this state variable that we did not go over earlier is our click count, and we're setting it to that initial count, okay? And that initial count we're getting here from our local storage, if there is anything there. If not, it's going to be 0. So that's why when we first go to our page, it's 0, right? Which is going to be 0. There we go. Well, it's nothing, but it was 0. All right. So then, oh, use effect. We're going to talk about use effect. Here's a new one. So use effect and use state are both hooks, right? React is all about the hooks. Hooks are pre-built functions in React that handle side effects, which ChatGPT gave us a nice little deal here. Okay, use effect. So use effect is a React hook that allows you to perform side effects in functional components. Side effects may include data fetching, subscriptions, or manually changing the DOM. Everybody remember the DOM, right? Everybody loves DOM? Okay. It runs after every render by default, but you can control its behavior by passing dependencies or using cleanup functions, okay? So use effects can get real hairy, and you can use more than one, okay? We're not going to go too crazy into it, but it gives an example here of a use effect. So So you can see in the array here, there, if you can see that, it says count, which is the state variable above there. So if you pass a state variable to an array or in the dependency array, the use effect is going to be triggered every time that variable changes. Okay. It's crazy. There's two other ways that you can use effect. Well, three. If you do not provide a dependency array at all, it gets triggered on every render. Make sure you look this up because I may be mixing them up. If you provide a dependency array that is empty, it gets triggered once upon render, not on the re-render. And then, like I said, you can use a cleanup function, which I don't have an example of that one. But basically, it would return at the end like something like if you needed to clean up your state or whatever you do there. But most of the time, what I've used them for is at the beginning of the function, I'll have an empty dependency array just if I need to like get data or whatever at the beginning. React has way better ways to do this. A lot of packages and things you can use like React Query. But this is the basic level, basically. So if we look in our use effect, so I have an empty dependency array here, right? So it's gonna go the first time it renders, right? The first time it mounts, if you will, some old lingo. And what's happening here is I'm gonna get the username from the local storage, store it in a variable, so that way we can display it right on the page like this. And then I have a if statement here. So if there is a username and it is greater than 0, because if it had a blank username, there'd be nothing there. Then we're going to set that username to our state, right? So this is our state setter function. Remember, we're in the parent, so we're handling the state. And so that's right here on our username. So this is our setter function here. And then we're going to set our click count if there is anything in the local storage, which actually, now that I think about it, that's why it was blank before. Because I set it to click count instead of initial storage. Let me fix that. So what I'm saying is in here, oh, I made it mad. You might have noticed that right here, it's not 0, it's blank, right? So in the local storage, the initial count, I said, okay, get me that stored count or 0, right? But then when I was setting it, I set it to what was in the click count, okay? Right now, if we look over here in our local storage, there's not a click count, right? Just blank. So that's a bug that we just found. So what we want to do instead of setting it to local storage, since we already made our nice little initial count here, we want to set it to that. So that way it'll be 0. I'm going to pretend like I did that on purpose. Well, now let's see if that fixed it. Sweet, now it's 0, right? So if a user were to come to your page and there's just a blank there, they're gonna be like, why is there a blank there? It's weird. So yeah, so if y'all want to fix that too, just in the use effect, line 21, change it to initial count. That make sense?
Yes.
Sweet. Cool. So then also in the use effect, we're handling the loading. So we're changing the loading to false because we're inside our component now. And then we're putting our sign into true. So that way we're showing the main page like we talked about down here in our return with our ternary operator. Okay. Do you want me to go back over ternary operators? Does that make sense? I can do it again.
It's true.
Yeah.
Thing is false.
Yep.
It's just if else statement sentence. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And they can get super complicated. So if it's difficult to read, don't use it. Like use an if else statement or use a switch statement. Make it as readable as possible. The only caveat to that is you can't do that in JSX. You can't put like a for loop or something directly. You can if you use curly brackets. But you can't do if else statements. So you would need to do a ternary, or you would need to have a function that would return your JSX to you, that, and then in your function you can do whatever you want. just to blow your mind on that a little bit.
One would argue that ternary is cleaner.
It can be,
It's just,
but-
it's less labor.
yes, yeah. I've seen some and written some that were like 17 chains of, so they can get ugly. But yeah, if it's, most of the time, it's gonna be like, if this thing is true, do this. If not, then you'll have like a default value or whatever. So pretty simple. Okay, good on that? Sweet, okay. So, we are now in our main. All right, so our main is child of app.js, right? It is also a parent of our counter component, okay? So it's like, I don't know, 25 years old, let's say. It's got a little bit lower. So first thing we're doing, we're getting that username from local storage so we can display it like we saw. Okay, here's first thing we're gonna do. Right here, this is how you're gonna display data in your JSX. So you're gonna do the curly brackets and then put the name of the variable. So in this case, it's username because it's in our component, right? It's not props.username because nothing's being passed for that. We're getting that right there. Does that make sense? Cool, okay. And then we're bringing in our counter component, so our child, and we're passing it all the props that got passed into its parent, which is main, from its parent, which is app. Okay, so our props.clickCount, and then all of our functions that you will then see in our counter. So again, make sure you have the parameter props there, because that's what you're going to use to then call them. So props.clickCount, props.handleClickCount, all those things. Okay, so when you pass it from the parent to the child to the grandchild or whatever, it's still just props. Like that doesn't change. It's not like grandchild.props or anything weird like that. Wednesday, we'll probably talk about destructuring props so that you don't always have to do props.whatever, but this is just fine. There's nothing wrong with doing it this way. All right, so we're getting all those things all the way down, right? So then we're on our page. So all of, so our click count and then these functions for these buttons all came down from the grandparent, right? Grandparent, parent, okay. All right, cool. So when we click increase click count, what's gonna happen? Gonna go-
Change the state.
We are. Tell me the flow. It's gonna do what? Gonna tell what? Yeah. Yep. Yes, so yeah, so when, as soon as it's clicked, we're in our counter. So this is the function that we're triggering, right? So we're gonna trigger this function, handle click count, okay? Which is props.handle click count because it came from our main. So then in main, we have handle click count right here. So this is, so when we say props.handle click count, this is what we're referencing. This does not have to match the prop that you're actually passing, okay? Which actually it doesn't right here because it says handle clicks. So, and this is just to confuse you more probably, but this is just, so think of like a key value, like this is like the key for whatever the value is that you're passing, okay? So this key can be whatever you want. So you can say, you know, this is a cool function from the parent or whatever. I wouldn't do that, but the point being that you may see that these don't match. So the props in the child, the props dot whatever, must match the name that you give it here. Okay. So you'll see here that we're passing a function called handle clicks, right? Not handle click count. So if we go to our parent of our main, our app.js, you'll see here, we're naming it handle clicks, right? And we're passing the actual function that lives here in the parent, handle clicks. Okay. Is everybody lost on that? Is that pretty? Okay. So then whatever you name the prop that you're passing does not have to match when you're passing it down more and more like props dot whatever, doesn't have to match that name. It needs to match whatever was passed to it. Okay, so like this is handle clicks, this function. This is what's being passed down, right? Like this is the actual function. This is the name we're going to use to reference that in the child. Okay, so like this could be Taco Bell, right? And then on the child, so child main, we now have, actually we're gonna, if we log our props, then you'll see what I'm talking about. So I don't have a Taco Bell. It's okay. All right, so if we look at our console now, you'll see, so these are the props, right? So notice that this prop is named Taco Bell, so props.Taco Bell, but the function is handle clicks. Okay, so in here, in the app, the name of the prop is Taco Bell, but the function that we're going to get from it is the handle clicks function. So if we go to our main, then here for handle clicks, like this is what we're naming it in main because we're going to have to pass it down to its child. So this would be props.Taco Bell now. Okay. Because that's the name of that prop. Right there. So we don't have a handle clicks prop now. But if we look at our main right here, well, we named Taco Bell, so it's not going to change. But does that make sense? Did I get it? Sort of, kind of. Okay. To be easy, just name them the same the whole way down. That's all I gotta do. But know that you might see that in other people's code, you know. Hopefully not Taco Bell. But. Okay, cool. So after that deviation, so bubbling back up, right? So in the counter, when the handle click count is clicked, it's a props.handle click count. So it's gonna go to its parent and say, okay, this thing was clicked. And then the parent's gonna go, okay, where do I have handle click count? Okay, I got it right here. Okay, what did you do? You had that function that I sent you. So now, okay, this is a props.handle clicks for me. So now I got to pass this back to my parent. So I'm gonna go back to my parent and I'm gonna look for this name, right? Like I'm not gonna look for props.whatever. I'm gonna look for this name that I gave it. Actually, I'm lying to you. It's the other way around. Sorry. I'm gonna look for this name in my parent, props.whatever. This is the name to pass it down. Sorry, I'm messing that all up. So yeah, so you look for this name in your parent, so handle clicks. So we'll go back to handle or app.js. We undo my Taco Bell. All right, so we have handle clicks, right? So props.whatever, look for that in the parent. Props.whatever, look for that in the parent. So props.handle clicks. So this is going to actually trigger this function in the parent, the handle clicks function. Okay. Sort of, kind of, okay. So our handle clicks function is right here. And all it's doing is it's getting the currently set state of click count. And it's setting it to just a temporary variable real quick so we can increase it. You don't want to change state directly ever. So you'll never do like, so click count is state, right? So if we look up here, this is the state click count. You'll never do click count equals something, okay? Because React doesn't do that. Like you have to, it needs to know what it is so it knows how to re-render it, okay? Makes sense, okay. So in our handle clicks, that's why we're going to set a temporary variable here, just because we need to get whatever the current click is so that we can then increase it and then set that state to our new click count. Okay. And there are ways to do this with prev state stuff so that you don't have to actually make a new one. But this is fine too. Because basically you're taking what you shouldn't change, again with an equal sign, and you're just setting it to a variable. So if current click count is 6 or whatever, then this is just setting 6 to this guy, right? And then you're just increasing it with the plus. You could do +1. You could do click equals or current click count equals current click count +1, but there's a shorthand ++. And then you're setting that, so that's now going to be 7, right? So you're setting that then to our click count state. Okay. And again, that is right here. Okay, that's our setter function. Okay. Then, this is the fun part. Now that we've updated the state, we need to let that grandchild know the state's updated, because they don't know. We never told them. So when we go back down and look at what we're actually passing down to main, we're passing our click count. Okay. So we're going to pass that from the parent, the grandparent, to our child, main. And then within main, you can see we're passing down a click count. That's props.click count, because that's what we just got from our parent. To count, and we're passing that down to counter, which is our child, our grandchild. So then in here, we can then display props.click count on our page. See the full circle there? Crazy. So every time we hit this button, all that happened. Okay, like that. So again, the function that has been passed down all the way from the parent, the handle click count, we're triggering it with this click, and it's saying, oh man, I got triggered. Let me let my parent know. Parent's like, oh, cool, you got triggered. Let me let my parent know. Parent's like, all right, cool. We're going to increase our state. Now let everybody know. So then it's going to say, okay, child, here, we did this. Tell your grandchild or tell your child. So then it tells child, and then it's like, oh, I have this. Cool. Bam. I'm going to show it. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. We have 3 minutes. Do we have, is our speaker person here? No.
Let's be second.
She sent me a message on Slack. It's oh, she sent me a message. Let me see. Oh, she just got to the Verge, but she's not sure which room. She might be out there. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. So yeah, so the rest of this, the other two, very similar. Again, it's passed all the way down from the parent, shot all the way back up. The save is then setting the click count into local storage. So just like we put name in local storage, it's just making a key. Let me show that real quick. So save click count right here. We're just setting an item click count into the local storage, and then we're just doing an alert saying, hey, it's been saved. So you can just go, yay, count's been saved. Okay. Reset does the same thing, except for just makes it 0. Okay. And then sign out is just clearing it's clearing the state, and it's clearing the local storage. Okay. So then next time you come in, you won't have any of that information. And that one just looks like this. And so we're literally using the, well, I made functions here, but this is just setting state. So if you look at handle set username, right there. So it's just setting it to E, which is whatever I passed, right? Which I just passed this empty string. And the same with it for the password. And then again, setting click count to 0, and then just clearing out local storage. Local storage is not clear. And then setting signed in to false, so that way we can see the sign in screen again. Okay. So when we go here and hit sign out, you'll see we go back to the first page. I know that was fast, but it's all just things that it's doing in other places, just doing it all right there. Yep. Any other questions for help? Sorry. Why wouldn't we? So counter is a child of main.
Just.
Yep. Yep. It's only in whatever its parent is. Yep. Now, if we wanted to have 2 different counters, we could bring one, because the whole point is to be reusable, right? So we could bring another one in here if we wanted to. I don't know why we would, but the top. Nope. Yep. Just wherever you're going to be using it. Cool. Any other questions before I hand it over? Y'all need naps after this? Yeah. Any questions in Tulsa?
I'm good.
not on the code, but is the speaker gonna be coming to Tulsa or do we need to stick around on Zoom?
Yeah, she'll come up there in a couple weeks, said.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you later. Okay. It's not my Zoom. It's my Zoom app. Oh, stop share.